Okay, this is Doom on the Dreamcast, and it's a homebrew release, and actually quite an early one. And in the last week or so, Steve Benway did a video on Smash TV, and there were quite a few people, including myself, that did video responses to it on different platforms. And he's done one on Doom recently on an Android, and I'm wondering, perhaps you'll get an influx of people doing different versions of Doom, which is, quite a cool thing that, one person does one video and then, almost like as a community effort, everyone else does a different version, which is good because you don't have access to everything. But I thought with Doom, I'll do something a little bit different. And this version of Doom is called DC Doom, and it dates back to around 2002, so it's probably about summer, Easter time, something like that. And this version was programmed by two guys called CRT0 and DC Grendel, and this was the first version, or rather, they didn't program it from scratch, it's a port, but this is the first port of Doom on the Dreamcast, and it was really good. I suppose my background with the Dreamcast was that I really got into the homebrew scene about 13 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that, so 2000, 2001, and Doom had recently become open source, so this was clearly a game that I think a lot of people wanted to see on the Dreamcast. And I remember, in order to do homebrew, get him, didn't like that, dear. I'll just finish this. So in order to do homebrew, you either have to keep burning CDRs, because the Dreamcast didn't really handle rewritables very well, which was quite expensive back then. Or you had to have a thing called a coder's cable. And what the coder's cable was, on the Dreamcast there's a socket that says serial, and on the, I'm trying to remember the exact name now, it's the Neo Geo Pocket, it was the little handheld that came out around the same time, there was a cable that linked the Dreamcast and the Neo Geo Pocket, and it was a serial cable. So what you could do was you could really get one of these cables and cut the end off, and instead of hooking it into the Neo Geo Pocket, you go in there. I'm not sure what that switch does. Probably one of the secrets. Anyway, so instead of hooking it into the Neo Geo Pocket, you just attached a normal serial cable so you could connect it to a PC. So the idea was that if you put a special boot CD in, you could take homebrew code, like a binary, and shooting, playing, thinking, talking, reminiscing, waffling, all at the same time. It's just not right. Yeah, very waffle. I'll get to the point. So the idea was, if you had one of these cables, you could develop code on the PC and then just almost, fling it over the cable whenever you wanted to try your code out, and you only had to burn one CD. That was the boot disk, and that was really good. But I used to have one of these because I was quite into programming on the Dreamcast, and the guy who was programming the port didn't have one of these cables, so he was called CRT0, and I've really lost touch with him. I've not spoken to him for years now, but we were quite good friends, and we used to almost share advice with how to program with the Dreamcast. There was clearly no manual for it, and all we had, well, I suppose still have, is a library called libdream, which later became Callistos by Dan Potter. And not to knock it, it's a really good library, and if you want to get into Dreamcast programming, that's certainly the one to go for, because it's not changed that much over the years. But he'd been writing this game, and it was really expensive for him to keep, burning CDs. So what he said to me was, he said, "Do you want to beta test it?" I said, "Yeah, that sounds great." But what he was a bit concerned about was, I think he wanted to, I'm not going to bother shooting those. I think he wanted to get like a complete non-buggy version out. So what he did with the Dreamcast, each machine has a unique serial number. So what he did to me, and I suppose this is my claim to fame, which isn't really that exciting, but there were about 4 or 5 of us that were beta testing the game, and what he did, he made the code so it locked down to a particular group of Dreamcasts. So if you put it on, there's probably a build out there somewhere that doesn't work, and the only Dreamcast it runs on is my Dreamcast and like 4 others, and that was really good, just getting to play that. The other thing he shipped me around the same time, I think just after he did this, was the Mesa 3D, which is like an OpenGL re-implementation in software. And it was cool just to being able to see the Lunar Lander demo on the Dreamcast and be the first person to really see that. And it ran pretty slow, but it was cool. I liked it. Ah, this opens up. Ah, this is where Steve was. Yeah, one reason for going back to this, having watched Steve's video, was I want to know what opens that. There's something that does it. But I think with this version of Doom, I know there have been more recent versions called, is it LX or NX Doom? Something like that. Aha, that's it. But to me, this was the one that I suppose I've got the nostalgia for. I didn't really... Well, I had the 32X version. I got it probably around 2000, so maybe really at the same time as I bought the Dreamcast. And it looked dated then. I mean, now you can look at it and think, well, it is what it is. It's a retro machine and it's one of the early 32-bit consoles. But it wasn't that great compared to the PC version, so for me I haven't got that much nostalgia for it. But with this version, I know the later ports on the Dreamcast have been a lot more advanced, and I'm not sure if some of the later ones even use the 3D hardware, because this one is really just it's just the software version, so it's close to your original one, or the SDL port. I think it's, is it PR Boom? Something like that. It's been a long time since I've really been playing these Doom source ports. But yeah, to me, it just feels right. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the 3D enhancements to Doom. I know it's each to their own, but to me, Doom... There's a secret in there somewhere. I hope I'm pressing the right button. But to me, with Doomo... I shot the other guy. It always, it should be low res and it should be slightly blocking, and the idea is that even though the game is quite low colour and the sprites are quite low res, it all seems to blend in quite well, whereas I found that the later ports of Doom, like the ones that got the 3D enemies, just, to me, just didn't do it for me. It didn't feel right. Ah, that's the secret. I remember there being a secret from years ago, but just, this is how you get the chainsaw. But yeah, so having a vanilla version of Doom really, for me, that's what it should be. And there's one on the PC called Chocolate Doom, which really is that. The idea is that they try and simulate the network experience as well, and it's as authentic as it can be. Pressing random walls, no. I think that's all the secrets for this level. Anyway, yeah, waffling. So I think having a version of Doom like this on the Dreamcast just, you know, feels like the original version of Doom. And I know this was so this is the, I think, beta 1. I think the 2 guys gave up with it after this version, and some other guys really took the ball and ran with it. But to me, you know, this is it. It has the nostalgia for it, and it's strange to think of you know, the Dreamcast being a console that we really have nostalgia for, but it's 13 years old now. I suppose even more in Japan it'll be 98, so 15 years old, which is quite scary. And yeah, I shot the other guy. I really should get back into doing a Dreamcast homebrew. I've not been making that many videos over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's really, well, apart from being busy, what I've been doing is getting back into the Dreamcast programming and really just learning how to set the development kits up, and it's not that difficult. It was a lot easier than it was when I first did it, you know, these like 12 years ago. Ah, I'm getting shot. Die. Spawn of I'll say Satan, but nah, something worse like FMV games on the Mega CD. Yeah, spawn of FMV games, or no, I was gonna be impolite and say Colonial Marines, but no, I haven't played the game, so I will. Yeah, that's a weird one. I won't go into that. Yeah, I really don't know what happened with that game, but I think what it does show as a justification is if the developers have had troubles getting that game to run on, assuming it's not a mock-up, getting it to run on current hardware, then maybe that's a good justification that, you know, we need another generation of consoles in order to get that quality graphics. I really don't know where I'm going. Ah, bugger. Yeah, 18% health, that's not good. I could probably get across there. But yeah, so I think if you miss the Dreamcast scene, as it were, from the early 2000s, it's well worth looking into. There used to be a few websites, and the names change, and there was DC Emulation, or DCMU, as I think as it became, and there was one called Console Vision. And there was a big schism in the... Oh, getting shot. And, try it again. There was a big schism in the early 2000s, and a group of people went to one site, and there was some kind of falling out. But there were really two websites, and they had a load of really good stuff on it. And there were... Really, it was bedroom programmers, and we were just learning how the... Well, a lot of us, including myself, were really learning how to program in C for the first time, which was, yeah, that's just wrong. What that demon's doing. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Yeah, go and check it out if you're into it. It's a shame that no one's done a historical document on it, because what I wanted to do was do like a weekend waffle going through all the history of the Dreamcast homebrew scene. But no one wrote it down, and I can't quite remember it. So what I might do is just try and, you know, find a load of material and see what I can piece together. But I'm sure I'm going to miss a load of it out. There are still projects that are going even now, but not as many as before. And I suppose they are still going. But yeah, certainly check it out. And if you've got the Dreamcast homebrew adapter, that makes it really, really easy. You just put the homebrew files for the bins on an SD card and plug it in your Dreamcast. Right, that really has been a waffly response. And hijacking the response to Steve Benway's video on Android and turning it into something completely different, which might be good or bad. Oh dear. Right, yeah, I'll leave it on that. Embarrassing. Thank you for watching.